I'm the author of a short story collection, Call It Anything But Love, and also a novel, Reputation, which is coming out in August. I'm your host for today on the Trouble at Taboo Junction author podcast. And today, once again, we have Scarlet Ibis James.
Thank you for having me, Amanda. I am so happy to be here today with you.
It's going to be fun. It always is with Scarlet, so you can say that in advance. You just know. So Scarlet is the author of several books, several being 4, but I think 4 is a lot considering that she first published 18 months ago. Now, she's done 2 short story collections, 1 novella, and a sort of workbook as well. But anyway, we're here to talk about Beyond the First Glance, which is Scarlet's latest offering. I've got my copy. I've got this. I've got the special. I'm showing off my special edition collector's copy. Yeah. So I want to really allow Scarlet to get into it. So I'm not going to go through a super long introduction. Hello, Nicole. Scarlet's won quite a few awards, and she's written about that process as well. She's been a panelist at the Bocas Lit Fest, which is one of the Caribbean's premier literary festivals. That was in 2026. And I just want to say welcome back to Scarlet, and let's get into talking about Beyond First Glance, your latest short story collection. And I'm going to introduce the book by reading some reviews, because guess what? People have already clocked that you and I are friends. so they might think I'm biased, right? So I went on Goodreads. I just went on Goodreads and I found some reviews. Okay. So from Bookish and Blush. Bookish and Blush says, there are books you read, and then there are books you feel. Scarlet Yearnings, Beyond First Glance, belongs in the second category. Scarlet Ibis James delivers a masterclass in tension and vulnerability. Now I'm going to read from Jamila Green. And I think some of these came from NetGalley. And the readers on NetGalley are tough. They're a tough crowd. They're not easy to please. Jamila Green says, I've never been a fan of super sticky, saccharine, or however you pronounce that, romance narratives. This collection of short stories settles into the quieter, honest season of relationships after the spark has softened and real life sets in. The season when expectations collide with reality and when love decides what it's made of. James writes in a way that acknowledges love isn't always easy. If you're someone who prefers your romance with a dose of reality, this collection will resonate. It's not about falling in love, but about staying in it. And I've said that in my talk, in my sort of summary about how I felt about Beyond First Glance. And that some themes keep coming up again and again when you look through the reviews. People talk about the honesty of it. They talk about the emotionally layered writing, emotional honesty, and how I think a lot of people find it refreshing that you deliberately went out to find other ways of writing about love. That's a kind of broad picture. So here's another review from Twinkle Butt Reads. And here, I know you're not here, guys, to hear me read. You're also going to hear from Scarlet reading, okay? But I'm just reading the reviews. This is the last one. What makes this collection stand out is its honesty. James explores relationships at their most vulnerable, asking difficult questions about commitment, forgiveness, personal growth, and whether love alone is enough. Each story feels like a different facet of the same gem, examining couples and individuals standing at emotional crossroads where staying, leaving, or reinventing themselves all feels equally possible. The review goes on. The writing is thoughtful and emotionally layered, balancing heartbreak with hope. Rather than offering neat fairy tale endings, James embraces the complexities of human connection. The characters make mistakes, carry regrets, and wrestle with choices that feel painfully real. Readers looking for sweeping romance may find themselves surprised by the book's introspective nature, but those who appreciate character-driven stories will likely find plenty to connect with. The interconnected structure adds depth, allowing themes and emotions to echo across multiple narratives without becoming repetitive. By the final story, The collection paints a compelling portrait of love as an ongoing practice rather than a destination. And you know from what I've said about your book that that really resonates very much with me. So I now want to get into a little bit more. I'm going to ask you, Scarlet, what is your favorite story? Hello, Afro Reads and Serendipity Forest Files.
That's like asking a parent who's their favorite child. I think it's hard to say. On any given day, I may think differently about different stories. I think when I started writing the collection, the one that was my favorite and that perhaps took the longest to write was All the Versions of Love. I actually started writing that perhaps in October 2024. That was the beginning. Then after, I'm so happy you started with reviews. I didn't know you were going to do that. And what I love about the reviews that you read from is that they're from different people from different parts of the world, people of different ages, people
Really?
of different races as
And I
well.
could not have known that. I love that. I could not have known that. Beautiful. That
Yeah.
is so beautiful. So you
Yeah.
don't have a favorite, basically.
I think it depends on the day. And I
Right.
think
Fair enough.
today,
Uh-huh.
to be honest with you, it's the practice of love. Because I had an event last night with Scribbles and Quills, and a
Yes.
new reader
Yes.
shared that that was her favorite, and she talked about why. And yeah, the practice of love was one that was new to this collection. It doesn't have a lineage in
Uh-huh.
anything that I've written previously.
Uh-huh.
But and it grew out of a prompt by Fellowship of the Griots about paper cuts. And I think that in long-term relationships, the things that we say to each other that might be hurtful, because when you really know people, you can say things that are really damaging. And that's what that story grew out of. My experience
I,
with.
I am so feeling this in a way I didn't expect because I have confessed that that is my favorite story, and it is my favorite story because it touched me most personally. It touched me the most in a personal way. But
Mm-hmm.
nonetheless, one of the things I've picked up from, looking at the feedback that you've gotten, both on social media and otherwise, is that people have different favorites. People
Yeah.
have different favorites. A lot of people say, well, I love these. These were so-so with me. And then other people, the ones that they loved are the ones that were so-so with other people. And, it just shows the versatility of the collection, even though it's a collection that really hangs together by that common thread of exploring what I call the work of love, the work that is involved in making love work. So what I'll ask you to do now is please read an extract for us, one that you haven't yet had a chance to read in any live events.
Okay, I'll do so. Thank
Thank
you
you.
as well for giving me options, because none of the ones you chose actually I have read in other spaces,
Oh,
and
brilliant.
so yes,
Yeah.
so that was really nice.
Okay,
I
but
think,
hold on. For this one is your choice, right? This
oh,
isn't
this
from
one
the
is my
selection of my
choice.
choices. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, because I sent you a selection of ones that I was choosing, but I'd like you to choose one that you love but
Okay.
haven't really read aloud in a public space yet.
Okay. I will do so. I will
Please.
do so. You know what? I misunderstood your direction, but I know exactly which one I'm going to read.
Love it.
It's going to be from the story All the Versions of Love. And this is a scene that I loved. And it is a scene between two men who were friends.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just occurring to me now that there's even love between them. And it really, the knowing someone after a long time, I think it really resonates from this scene.
Mm.
So, All the Versions of Love. Okay, this one is from segment or fragment 4. Nuro's voice still held that velvet warmth that whisked me back to carefree college nights and double dates, cheap beer and easy laughter. Back then, we called each other brother and meant it. That version of us was long gone. We drifted so far apart over the years that best friend had become a story we told other people, not ourselves. Thinking of him now made me sick. My fingers whitened around the phone. Every note of his greeting grated. How's Georgetta? Let's meet. I'm in your town. What? You and Georgetta didn't tell me you were coming. It's just me. She had appointments and is with one of her friends. I'm only here for the day. He must have heard the edge in my voice. A beat of silence passed. Come down, I'm at the diner. His tone turned somber. All right. 20 minutes? I ended the call and glanced around the cafe where Neuro and I had killed so many late night cravings. He'd left this sleepy town after graduation. I hung on for a few years and then followed Georgetta to Maryland. Oh, he had never left this sleepy town. Plenty of time. I rang her. My love. Jakob, where are you? Liz and I are at the lab. This amyloid PET CT is supposed to tell all. I'm nervous. That's why Liz is there. I have to share you once in a while. She chuckled. I'll see you when I get home. What? Don't worry, Liz has enough tea to spill with you. But the person I'm meeting just walked in, love. I'll talk to you later, okay? Okay. A tall, broad-shouldered man stepped inside, surveying the room with practiced calm. A close-cut beard framed his jaw. A flash of kente inside his cufflinks caught the light as he moved. Nuru always carried home with him. He smiled and strode over. I didn't return it. I caught my reflection in the window behind him. I bristled at my pale face. Thinning sandy hair. Suit jacket a little too tight across the middle these days. I hated how small I suddenly felt next to his easy, grounded presence. I beckoned the server with a wave. They filled Nuru's mug. Nothing else for now, I said, cutting off any chance Nuru could order anything. Nuru's brow lifted. What's going on, Jakob? Georgetta has early onset Alzheimer's. He flinched, caught a sharp breath, his hand darting towards mine. He stopped in motion when I drew back into a fist. An angry gulf opened between us. Is she all right? And you? You're shutting me out, brother. I spat the word, well, brother. Something surfaced in her. Forgetfulness. She remembers being married before me. His eyes narrowed, replaying my words. You said you knew Georgetta's family in Ghana. Did you know, Jakob? No deflections, Nero. I want everything. What exactly are you asking? Fuck, Nero. She says she was married to you. Silence. The waitress veered away. Were you together before us? It was complicated, uncomplicated. My wife recounts intimate details she shouldn't know unless what? His gaze sharpened. What are you accusing me of, brother? Brother again. It was no longer a bond, but a shield. For once, give me the truth. He chose his words. The truth isn't always what we think. Sometimes it's better to let me question every memory. My voice grew loud. You went after her first, didn't you? Before that conference, when I met her. His jaw set. He swept the diner. I followed his gaze. An elderly couple by the window, a construction crew at the counter. Lowering his voice to a dangerous whisper, he said, You really want to do this here? You expect me to sit through your public meltdown? A flush of heat filled my neck and cheeks. Don't. Don't what? His voice remained controlled, but I could sense the tension in his grip around his coffee cup, his knuckles pressing hard against the ceramic. I caught something under his breath, barely audible. Typical. Make it about you. What did you say?
Mm-hmm.
You are not ready for the truth, brother. You never were. I leaned in, voice raising even more. So there was something. Keep your voice down. Heads turn. I won't play this angry black man spectacle in your spectacle. Cold shame washed over me. You think I don't see the actual issue here? His tone was intense. It isn't her memories. It's that a woman like Georgetta might have chosen a man like me, a black man, an African, first. That's not, isn't it? His smile thinned. All these years you've wondered why she picked the ugly spreadsheet guy with the 10-year plan. Now her mind whispers, maybe she didn't. Stop. Her skin, Jakob. That's gnawing at you. The diner shrunk around us, every clink amplified. He rose, set 20 on the table, still considerate. You want truth? Some doors stay shut for a reason. Decide if your wife is enough to stop owning her own story. And figure out whether you're fighting for her memory or just fighting to win. He paused, pity flickering in his eyes. Take care of her. The bell over the door chimed as he left. My coffee cooled while unspoken accusations settled like silt. This quiet wasn't absence. It was a crowd of things unsaid, and I had to face the possibility that Newell was right. I sat in that diner for another hour after he left, staring at my cold coffee while his words echoed. You're fighting for her memory or just fighting to win. The truth was a knife twisting in my chest. Maybe I've been trying to win, to own every piece of Georgetta's history like some prize I'd earned. The drive home felt endless. Every mile forced me to confront what I had become. A man so desperate to possess his wife's past, he had forgotten to cherish her present.
I just want to join our listeners in, saying how much we enjoyed that. I know they did. I saw those like a bouquet of hearts go up in the air on the side. And I just want to say to everyone listening that I've seen your comments. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I just will not be able to interact with you and interact with Scarlet at the same time till the Q&A section. So I'm sorry about that. That was beautiful, Scarlet. I'm so glad you read it and not me, because I don't think I could have done justice to it. You just, you make it better. You've made it better for me. You've made that scene better for me than when I read it on my own. My gosh. And this is a scene about the insecurity that Jakub experiences in his marriage, and insecurity in a marriage is a very familiar experience for many of your readers, or even in a relationship, not necessarily in a marriage. And then rivalry between two men, also love between two men because they were friends and are still friends. And then of course there's a black-white dynamic, which I recognize. I don't think I recognized it the last time we spoke. You do weave that in. It's not the focus of your work, but you do weave that in. And being a black man in a white space, we see that Nero has the wisdom to know that he is not getting into a big fight, no matter how angry he gets with Jakub here. And there's a lot going on there. And the beauty of it is this is all nested within a bigger story, which is between Jakub and Georgetta. And it's a very tender story, a very beautiful story, which sometimes we have the pleasure of witnessing in real life. And sometimes it's absolutely the opposite. I mean, I can think of an elderly neighbor of mine who insisted, as his wife was entering a stage of dementia, decades older than your main characters, that he was going to take care of her for as long as he could. And he did that. And it is such a beautiful, beautiful thing. And there's that tenderness woven into this story. And this is one of the reasons I think that this is one of the many favorites that your readers have. So now for the question. Welcome, Jasmine. And now for the question. Which of your stories seems to be most loved by your readers?
Okay. Um, the first one is Code Black, Code White, which
Mm.
is also an interracial love story. And I find that a lot. I of course I it has roots in the first collection as well, but not necessary. The thing about Beyond First Glance is that it is a standalone collection. Although I think reading the first one either before or after adds a layer, as you would say, of interest, to see how those stories developed. But Code Black, Code White, most people count that on their list of favorites. There are others if you're interested.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes,
So,
I'm interested.
yes. So that one comes up almost
Tops.
routinely all the
Yeah,
time. I
yeah.
also want to do a disclaimer. There are 12 stories, and for everyone listening live or later in the replay, you're not going to love all of them. You may actually hate a couple of them, and that's okay. I think they all reach different people in different ways, and others may not be for you, and that's okay. That is okay. That's the beauty of a collection. The other one that folks tend to love is What Grandmothers Hold,
Mm.
which is also, rooted in the first book and my second book. And it's the story of Cecil and Mary, the grandparents who are raising their granddaughter in Trinidad, and a moment in time. I had so much love for this couple. They mirror my grandparents who raised me, but also just the ability for me to show love in very much older people and what that could look like. And then the third one that was a surprise to me and joy for me, was Under Long Term Observation.
Uh-huh.
That one I asked my beta readers, should I include it, because I felt that one and Love in Cosmic Times are very different than all the other stories, very very different.
That's right.
But Under Long Term Observation really approached thriller, and
Yeah.
or domestic thriller, and I really was nervous about including it in the collection. But to my joy and surprise, people tend to love that. So those are the three: Code Black, Code White, What Grandmothers Hold, and Under Long Term Observation. All very different stories.
And that's one of the things that your collection does demonstrate, your versatility. You know, and the things that you've mentioned, they are the things that also are among the things that I loved about those stories. I think with Code Black, Code White, it's probably the only story that is almost like a straightforward romance. You kind of know from the beginning, you suspect strongly from the beginning that despite the struggles that they're going to overcome it and it's going to be happily ever after. And then a lot of your characters, in fact, most of your characters, maybe all of your characters, you write the most wonderful male characters. The kind of characters, no, the kind of characters that people feel like, wow, I wish I could meet somebody like that. Oh, I mean, all of them have their merits. I'm not saying any of them are perfect, but they're just amazing. In
Except
terms of
Bill. I don't want Bill.
except Bill. Okay, all right, okay. But Bill was an exception. That particular story was an exception.
Yes,
Then that's the
yes.
one that where that Scarlett just referred to under long-term observation. I don't want to spoil it for you, but it is really, really different. But at the same time, I feel it is exploring a genuine facet of love, which is that when you're in an intimate relationship with someone, even after that relationship has ended, whether it's been good or bad, they leave something with you. That relationship leaves an imprint on you.
Hmm.
And how do you sort of escape from that? So this is a very extreme. The story's, you'll read it for yourself if you haven't already read it. I don't want to spoil it. Were any of the stories read or received by readers in ways that you didn't intend or found very surprising?
The practice of love is something, the um, Dana Marie Ingraham, interviewed me for the kickoff of the month, of the release month, and her take on something that I put in there. It was just one line, and I thought it was just so beautiful. And it did surprise me, where she talked about how he didn't use a lot of words in the way that he um, expressed himself, but he used the symbolism of things. And so, towards the end of that, he cooked a pot of pilau. And she thought that was just so beautiful because the way I expressed it is it was him in a pot. It was everything that he was as a Trinidadian and offered it to her. Like that was his offering. And um, I wrote it because I do feel like pilau represents me. Like I feel like it in every book I have pilau because it's so uniquely Trinidadian. And but I almost cried when she said that because it wasn't what I wrote and meant. But that's the beautiful thing about writing is that when it reaches the person puts their own imprint on it, to use your word from before. And it's a beautiful thing to read. I love reading reviews and hearing and talking to people about that. But I think that that was definitely a surprising take. The other thing that came up that was also surprising to me that I didn't know, and as I actually started rereading a lot of my stories, there's this concept of the mirror.
Hmm.
And so it was very overt in the one, the the affair that surprised her. I don't, that's not what I mean in the story, but that's what let's
Yeah,
see.
the affair she didn't see coming. The
The
affair she
fear she
didn't see
didn't see
coming.
coming.
Yeah.
There was an absolute mirror in that, and the mirror played very much into the story. But one observation that reader had shared with me is that almost every story has that idea of the character seeing a reflection of themselves in different ways. And I thought, oh my God, like I didn't even it was not it's something that just comes out in my writing that I didn't plan for, but it surprised me because she was right. And I talk about it a whole lot. Okay, third thing,
Uh-huh.
at the Bocas Lit Fest, which is a literary festival that happens in Trinidad every year, I had an opportunity to be interviewed with Lance Dorwich and Ryan Bechu. And Ryan asked me something again that I did not intend.
Uh-huh.
He asked about whether in my writing, something to the fact, in my writing, do I grapple with what it means to be a man?
Hmm.
And I was like, I what? And what was interesting is that I had already written Beyond First Glance when I did that interview. And in reading again The Practice of Love, I realized that he was actually asking that. Like that came out. And
Hmm.
for me, writing, I've mentioned this in other interviews, that I am a conduit to the story. And so the story comes through me. So I cannot help but think that the literary powers that be who use me as an instrument are using me to bring that message or that idea out, because it's not something that I had thought about or even recognized myself even as I was writing it. I was writing a completely different story, but that clearly is about men and Jerome with his father. Like there are all these men who are influenced by the absence of or even the presence of their fathers, and then asking the question, what does it mean to be perhaps a good man?
I think that's another thing that's really beautiful about your stories. This is an age where we have, unfortunately, increasing tension between, let's just say, all the genders. But what I genuinely mean, what I really mean by that is there is a sort of anti-feminist backlash which is taking maybe the more extreme messages that they perceive feminism as expressing, as well as a lot of contortions of what feminism is about, a lot of distortions, and there's a sort of there's a manosphere backlash. So rather than us moving closer together as human beings who are looking for the best in each other and having compassion for each other's weaknesses and trying to lift each other up instead of lifting each other up, sometimes even in the arts, it feels as if women are trying to drag men down, men are trying to drag women down, men are complaining that they can't get published, women are complaining that everywhere it feels as if there are all these tensions that are causing us harm as a society, that are undoing the fabric. And in your work throughout, just as we talked about the last time we spoke, you try to write the world that you want into being, and so you're writing these male characters who are struggling, but they're working on it. And there's a lot of giving of grace in your stories as well.
On
So
purpose. I looked back at that interview that you did with me, Amanda. It was so wonderful. I couldn't stop looking at it. I looked at the whole thing over again.
yeah.
And yes, I do write the world, I think, as I see it and as I want it to be at the same time, because as a lot of the readers have expressed, they're real stories. They're not fantasy, they're not romantasy, they're not saccharine, as that person said, right? And so they're real, and um they're also ambitious,
Yes.
and they're also perhaps showing a way. I'm fortunate, though. I am surrounded by amazing men, whether it be my husbands or my sons. And also within the fellowship of the griot, there are amazing men. Black Tribe with CJ is also a space that has men who are consciously different, I think, than the norm. So I am aware of men who are, mm, perhaps people might think they don't exist, but they actually exist. They are amazing men who are able to express their selves, and able to um, and able to be vulnerable, perhaps embrace their own feminine side, even as they are manly. And I think that I write with those people in mind as well. And even the ones who struggle, because I would think that, like, my grandfather was somebody who struggled with with expressing joy, but I towards the end of his life I saw him be joyful, which was wonderful as well too. So it's not something that's stagnant, but really, I think love and being is something that also evolves. And so my hope and my prayer is that this world and the majority of people in it um, are in that space of cycle, and that we will cycle towards something better, and continue to do that. And I think the people this world right now. I was exchanging notes with somebody from Substack earlier today, and he had done a photo of the sky, which I restacked, but I thought it was just so magnificent, and just the ability to see beauty like that is just another way of being more beautifully human.
Yeah, and beyond first glance is and very much like, for most of the stories in Beyond First Glance, very much like the novella that you wrote, Scarlet Birthright, you don't leave us with the trauma. You take the next step and try to show the steps towards forgiveness, the steps towards reconciliation, the steps towards decision making, the steps towards remaking yourself, the steps towards healing. It's beautiful. And I'm going to go a little bit more into some of the stories to ask some questions, but I've got about 5 or 6 questions in this category. So let's see
We'll go
if we
fast.
can get through them in terms of speed.
I'll
So,
try not to be as verbose as I typically am.
so the story Stay, that
Yes.
was about a woman in the corporate world coming up against some challenges and, relating with her friends, her male friends, who were, they seemed to be platonic friends, but there was a lot of sexual tension there, which was a lot of fun to read because you never really make it clear whether
There
these,
was more.
right. And that was a lot of the fun, but it wasn't the main part of the story. The main part of the story was this woman having to work through how to break through this corporate wall that she was facing. And the title Stay, it has so many layers of meaning, so many layers of meanings within the story. And again, I'm not going to spoil it. But what I'd like to ask is, when I read it the first time, I thought, this has a feel of real life in it. There's just a little feeling here that I'm getting that this one comes from Scarlet's real life. And I know you do write autofiction sometimes. Some of your stories are inspired by things that may have happened to you or people you know. So would you like to tell us something about how your real life experience played into that story? Yeah,
I'd love
in a
to.
sort of summarized way, because I've got so many other questions for you.
Sure.
Yeah.
So the part of Stay that was autobiographical fiction was her corporate challenge. So the challenge basically is that she is deemed or seen as something that was interpreted in a negative way, and from a work perspective, that Monica is following her as she does her consulting in different spaces. And me personally, I have had that happen to me several times. So I would say in different ways. And
Yeah.
so I think it's just one way that I depict in the story, but I've had people tell me I'm just too happy. And yes, girl. And
Right.
so I feel as if and so people, number one, sometimes don't think that it's real, that I'm being fake, or which the part that I do take is that sometimes I'm always trying to get to that good place, and people may not be ready to get there, and so I accept that as well. That I need to be a little bit more conscious when people need to stay in their angry space and not try to get them out of it because they don't want to move out of it right then. The other Monica that I've gotten recently is that I'm very rigid. And in that I have certain standards. And that's, I think, where Stay comes out of it, where, and that has touched me in a very negative way recently as well too. So I'm also struggling with that. It was a live feeling. Stay was probably one of the last stories that I wrote, and I wrote it this year, having experienced this piece. And the last thing that I would say about Stay is that where she came to is actually built out of a real story where I heard a professional woman speaking, and she spoke about, and because my automatic thing is always, I'm going to leave. I am going to leave. Like,
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Right. So Stay, the title Stay, actually has even more significance than I thought. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm,
It's about the
mhm.
choice that you've got to make. And you can, there are situations where the right thing to do is to leave, and there's situations where the right thing to do is to stay. And then the next question is, if you're going to stay, how are you going to stay? Like, how, what do you have to do differently? What you have to maybe tone down,
You have to
change?
flex. You
Yeah.
have to
Yes,
flex.
it's brilliant, and it's nice to see that sort of stuff depicted in fiction. It is.
Hmm.
It is. And I felt when I was reading so many of the stories, in some way I could see myself, like the story Love on the 14th Floor. I just thought about my best female friend and how we are there for each other, and she's especially there for me. And I just thought if I read this aloud to her, I would start crying.
You know, it's so weird that
Yeah.
you say that because a really good friend of mine now, Amina Ali, she shared with me after yesterday's session that was one of her favorite stories.
Wow.
And I
So
thought
many
that was
different
lovely. I
favorites.
think there's something about female friendships, especially perhaps in the Black and Brown community, that I was also not very aware that perhaps it's unique to our communities, because I actually am a part of another. So in my non-student in life, I did go to Harvard University as well, and so they have a writing group, and so I do a critique group, and so as much as I can, I try to attend. And when I did a early reading of Love on the 14th Floor,
Uh-huh.
some people took it as um, a sapphic romance, and I'm like, what? I'm like, no. Not that there's anything wrong with sapphic
But
romance,
that's not
but
what you're aiming for.
that is
Yeah.
not where I was
Yeah.
going. And so I thought that she, and it was so interesting because it was a woman in there that thought that it was, but then the man hearing it said, well, I actually just thought it was two good girlfriends. Like it was just two completely different things. But that was interesting to me, and all I could think about is perhaps that person may not have that type of relationship with another woman, which is unfortunate, because they say that those types of relationships between, like, close relationships with women and close relationships with men leads to longer life. So it's one of the things, the trademarks of a blue
Yeah.
zone in the world.
I will just push back a little bit on something you said. I think it's pretty unlikely that these type of friendships have anything to do with.
Race?
Yeah, I can't see it. Humans
I
just
hope
be humans.
so. I hope
Humans
so.
just be
Maybe with
humans.
uniqueness. I hope so.
We've got more in common than anything else. Um, so another thing that you've done in this particular collection is you've written about ADHD in The Affair She Did Not See Coming, and you've written about dementia in All the Versions of Love. And my question is it that the life conditions flowed into an already existing story concept, or did you start with the medical conditions in your mind and then build a story out of that?
The latter, the latter.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah. So, for All the Versions of Love, that actually came to me when I was when I was when I did the launch of my first book. I had some of my friends read specific stories, and in the launch, I had them talk about and ask me questions about what they read.
Yeah.
And my friend Courtney Wright, she read the first story, and now it's completely escaped my head what it was called. But she read the first story with Jacob and Georgetta, and she thought it was odd that she recognized his voice when
Mm.
they met in the the bodega,
Yeah,
basically.
fair, fair.
And when she said that, so it was just a statement that she made,
Yes, yes.
but immediately, and why my mind went to that, I thought, is because she did know him. Because
Mm.
remember, like 4 years had passed,
Yeah.
quote unquote, in the first book. 4 year or a number of years had passed after meeting this person for the first time, right? And then you recognize your voice. She was right. And that's why sometimes it's really great to have beta readers and developmental editors, because they point out these things to you that you just don't see
You don't
while you're
have
in
to
the
pick
process of
on.
writing. And but what came to me then is, you know what? She knew him, but she didn't recognize him.
Right, right. And I have read this story in, you could say, three different phases. I've read a short story on Substack, which was like a snippet.
Mm-hmm.
I've read the version in Beyond First Glance, and I've read the one in Scarlet Yearnings. And the one in Scarlet Yearnings didn't have to go in this direction. And that's one of the interesting things about the relationship between Scarlet Yearnings and Beyond First Glance. The relationship is a fairly casual one, in the
Yes.
sense that
Yes.
you took the liberty to say, well, okay, I want to build on some of these stories. I don't want to build on all. And then you didn't feel tied to all the details and all the structure in the first version. So you allowed yourself a lot of liberty, and I think that basically allowed you to, I don't know, create better stories because you gave yourself that freedom. Um, yeah. So you, if you've read Beyond First Glance, you can go back and read Scarlet Yearnings, but don't necessarily feel that the partner stories have to flow 100% as if they belong to each other, because there's a lot of freedom in that space.
The other thing is, I also feel so it's very divergent, right, with this particular story. It's also divergent with Another Day in Paradise, which was the first one, I think, with Carlos, because
Oh yeah.
Carlos was the center. And then it's
Yes.
very different. It's Kweku
Yeah.
now, right? And one character, Cleolin. So it, but the other thing is, why I also give myself the liberty is the story of Trisha in the first book, Scarlet Yearnings, how Trisha remembers it as an adult thinking back at a 5-year-old's experience, and then how Jerome saw it in Scarlet Birthright, different and different things, and then how Mary and Cecil saw the same exact thing. I just marvel at how in life 3 or 4 people in the same spot see completely different things. And all of them are true.
That's
All of them
right.
are true because we attend to different segments of experiences, and some things stand out, some things don't. And so I was actually deliberate in telling the story of What Grandmothers Hold to actually recast some of the things that Trisha thought she saw.
Uh-huh.
Differently, because as a grandmother in
Yes.
that situation, she saw things very differently than how
Yeah.
Trisha might have
Yeah.
seen it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well done, basically. Well done. And so much for those um, clients who think you're rigid. That is not a demonstration of rigidity.
I
That's a
think I
demonstration
reflect.
of,
I think they see themselves. I think is actually where I've come to. Actually,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so you also, one thing I want to say about all the versions of love, and I sensed it, but I wanted to check with Scarlet, and you don't need to extend it, but I'm just going to confirm that Scarlet did some research. So that
yes.
presentation of early onset dementia, it's not just her imagining what it might be like. She actually did the checks to see, well, you know what presentations are realistic. Um,
Yes.
yeah, and it is
Yeah.
terrifying. I'll leave it up to you if you want to extend on, if you want to add anything to that, or if you want us to move on.
Yeah. I think I again I've been writing these stories over a long period of time. So last April, um, I had started versions of this story, and I had met a writer, and you told me you were going to do this, but I don't have his book with me right now. But I met him at another Harvard event, and he is an expert at dementia, and so I asked him at that time, would he read my short story if when I'm ready, and he said yes. So I sent it to him, and he had a lot of technical things that he shared with me. um, as an example, I used the term early onset one time. It's actually not the correct term for what Georgetta is experiencing. She is actually young onset is what they're calling it technically,
Okay.
because it happens very early. So early onset is technically, you could be in the early stages of dementia. So you could be older, but I knew that colloquially we
Yeah.
think of
Yeah.
early onset as younger. So I
Yeah.
left it in one time, but most of the other times I say young, which is the actual thing. He also suggested to me that what she experienced um, is more likely that there was a traumatic event in her youth. And so he and I talked through that it's likely that maybe the chief, maybe she was actually married to the chief, or actually and it was an escapism as well. But I did not want to introduce that level of trauma, especially because it would have required more research, and I did not want negative associations with Ghana to be introduced into the story. So even though, so he is likely right that if it was in reality, but I allowed the fiction to come through there because I would not say that she was taken advantage of when she was younger. She was like, there was a lot of things that um, might cause a person to actually disassociate or associate something, but I didn't want to go there. So
Well, we do have a lot of, we do mix up memories when we're experiencing dementia. I have, there's someone I know who often refers to her son by her deceased husband's name and mixes up her son and her eldest grandson
Mm-hmm.
by name, even though she knows who she's referring to.
Mm-hmm.
So these things happen. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
these
Yeah.
things do
Yeah.
happen. Okay, so um, the affair she didn't see coming. I don't want, it's hard to talk about that story without giving too many spoilers. But the second time I read it, I went on the journey with Renee and I started searching for my own answers to the questions that her workshop with Akosua
How
posed. So
wonderful.
my answers are very personal. So I'm not going to share them on the chat. However, I love that you could write a short story and someone could actually do that and get something out of it. Just by the way, can I just ask everyone in the chat, just put in the chat if just want to know if anybody else read The Affair She Didn't See Coming and found themselves going through the therapy with Renee. I just want to know if I'm the only one in the room. And I loved how you took the concept of technology and you decided to use it for good. Again, this is you building the world that you want into. And let me be specific. We're not talking about technology generally. We're talking about artificial intelligence, which is like you can't go anywhere these days without hearing artificial intelligence being spoken about left, right, and center. It's on every podcast. It's in the news. It's everywhere, right? And I felt like you also got it right because one of the things we find with AI is that when we engage with something created by artificial intelligence, whether it's a piece of writing, a piece of quote unquote art, a poem, after we're told that it's artificial intelligence, then all of a sudden we have an aha moment if we hadn't picked up on it before and we start looking at it again and we can see that, yeah, this does make sense. And I felt you also captured that in that story because I felt the way that the mirror spoke to her, if you want to call it the mirror, it did have that vibe. For people who use ChatGPT a lot and they share sometimes, I don't use it. They share what it's, how it communicates back to them. That vibe is there. So well captured, a story for our times. So here's probably, we're coming to the end of this section of questions.
Oh, I want to say one other thing about that and the
Yeah,
use
sure.
of AI. One of the things that I researched as well, and again, crafting the world that I want. And I also wanted to show that sometimes, especially in this day and age, we go through things sometimes when we don't read the disclaimers, really. And I don't know if you noticed in that story, they did disclose very early on that, what they were going to do. But
Well,
whether
yeah.
Renee tuned into it or not, and so many times we sign things away, not realizing what we're really signing. And or not that we have a choice in for certain things, but I wanted to also show that she basically, if she really paid attention, she would have known from the beginning that it was, she would have known what it was all about. But I don't think she ever really read it. But it was important to me that I put that nuance in there that you were told, you were warned, it was disclosed. Um, but whether we choose to tune into it or not is a different story. Or whether the path we're supposed to take requires that we tune in is a different story.
Yeah. I'm sort of playing with what to do with other questions that I have. I think
I'll
in the
try to
interest of
answer them
time.
faster. Go. I'll try
No,
to
no,
answer.
no. Okay. All right, you want to do it?
Yes.
Let's see if we can do it fast. So this
Yes.
is just a kind of like one sentence answer. Okay.
Yes.
One of the things that I've noticed is there are not a lot of children in your story besides Trisha in your stories. You've got a lot of couples in their late 30s, 40s, 50s, no kids, no talk about having kids, no regrets about not having kids. Was that accidental, intentional? Has anyone mentioned this? Am I the only
You're
person?
the first person to mention it.
I thought so.
And
Yeah. The stories are fine without the kids, by the way. We
thank
all
you.
need kid-free
Yes,
space.
you're the first person to mention it. It's not lost on me.
Okay.
No, I have not tried to include kids. Kids are so complex. They complicate everything already. But no, I do tend to focus only on couples or
Okay.
people, adults.
Okay. I love that. All right. Next question. This is your second short story collection. You've written a novella, which grew out of the first collection. You continue to write short stories. Is writing a novel on your radar at all?
If
It's
it
fine if the
comes,
answer
it
is no.
comes. I'm not intending to write a novel.
Okay, love it. I love that. I love that. I love that. I love that. Do you know why I love that? Because
Tell me.
everybody feels they have to write a novel. I'm a writer, so someday I'll write a novel. Really? No, write a novel if you want to.
If it comes out, I think
if it,
you're.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. I love that. Um, I'd say there's a lot of growth in your own writing craft that I've witnessed between this collection and the second one. And there was even a lot of growth I felt between the novella and the first collection. And is this something you're conscious of? Is this something you agree with? Have other readers said the same? What would you attribute this growth to?
Other readers have not said it. You're the first to say it. Yes, I have. I have grown. I continue to learn and grow. I
Wonderful.
mentioned last night in the that I'm going to be deliberate about seeking more critique groups to help with my writing. Um, Doing something formal could be in the cards for me. I'm going to decide, but I want to grow and learn. Um, in my paradigm, writing is something that continues to evolve.
Beautiful.
When every so many of the writers that we know and love today started and they had crappy first books. That's okay in my
Yeah,
estimation. Put it out there,
yeah,
continue to evolve. So yes, absolutely, it has changed and grown. Also, what I have done differently with this one is that I had beta readers. And I think that that has been significant in evolving the stories in very concrete ways that I didn't have the luxury of before because I didn't allow it. I didn't allow space for it. So having beta readers, not that you take everything that beta readers say, but they give you
right.
things to think about and be more deliberate about, which was lovely. So in the front of my books, I do talk about my team, and the team does include these beta readers. I just had about 6 of them, I think, that really helped. My son, D. James Joseph, he was an editor for this book, and having him as a partner in the creative process was also very amazing this time. So he touched, maybe he's the linchpin because he touched Scarlet Birthright a little bit towards the end. I changed a couple things after talking with him through his impressions of the book. And for this one, he touched every story and really pushed me in ways that were quite uncomfortable for a mother.
That's beautiful. That's brilliant. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I love it. And that shows his maturity as well. So I think at this point, I'd like to move on to a second reading. So now the question is, what should we choose? And I feel
Are you
like,
reading it? You're reading it.
oh, I thought you were reading it.
Oh, you want? Yeah, you choose the reading. I'm
You're
ready.
the better reader, you see. Okay, let me. So I'm thinking. We do have a reading from all. We did a reading from all the versions of Love already. That
Hmm.
was the one where the two men, um, Yakub and Nuru. Is it Nuru?
Yes,
Uh,
Nuru.
in that state of tension. Um, wow, this is hard. I thought at this point I'd know exactly which one we wanted to read. Um, I wonder if we should we put it to the chat? Should we put it to
Let's
the
see what
chat
people
also?
might want. Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you guys the options. There is a beautifully crafted death scene. But it's beautiful. It's beautifully written. So there's that one. That's option number one. There is the tender ending of all the versions of love, where we see Georgietta and Jakub together and the way that story ends. And then there is the part of the story, What Grandmothers Hold, which I feel captures the essence of the tension. So those are three options. Option one is the death scene, the tender scene, and option three is the tense scene. So we'll call that the death scene, the tender scene, and the tense scene. I don't have a poll, so drop your thoughts in the chat, and if there's a pattern, or if there are one or two answers, we'll go with that.
I can't see the chat. I don't know.
You can't see the chat.
So all you do, I think for each person, just say 1, 2, or 3, right?
Or whichever. I'll still know what they meant.
Yeah.
Okay, no responses yet.
Oh, hi, Miss Main. I love Miss Main. Oh, I'm now seeing the chat. Afro reads. Oh, Ronaldo.
Ah.
Oh,
Okay.
Jasmine
Miss
is
Main
on.
says 3, and SJL says 1. Okay. We're just waiting for a few more responses, and other than that, we'll have to flip a coin.
Lovely. Oh, Nicole. Yay. Okay.
Okay, who's got a coin? It's time to flip a coin. we've got two options.
You have to break it. Which one do you want?
Okay, I'm gonna go for what grandmothers hold.
Okay.
On the argument that no, I'm gonna go for the accident scene. I'll tell you why. look at the two of them in the chat. They're like, oh, whatever. Let's go with the other person. Okay, I'm gonna go hard. I'm gonna go for the accident scene. I'll tell you why. Because it shows the talent of the author. It is not an easy scene to write, and it was beautifully done. And somehow she's able to insert into that tragedy that sense that this man isn't just dying, but he's going home to his ancestors. Now we have to read that one. Take it away, Scarlet.
Okay. The name of the story is He Did Not Come Back. The accident happened near the light at the corner. Kwaku rode with his hood up, cap visor low on his forehead, bag hugging his body. The street was busy, but not more dangerous than usual. Taxi horns, a delivery truck double parked, a woman dragging a suitcase over a patch of ice. He waited for the walk sign, then pushed off, bike gliding into the crosswalk. He did not see the car until it was almost on top of him. Later, witnesses would explain that the driver had tried to beat the light, that the sun hit the windshield at a bad angle, that everyone moved a little too fast. Impact knocked the breath from him before he could curse. He flew sideways, time stretched into a razor-thin thread. The cold slap of air, the instant recognition that this could be the thing that changed everything or ended it. Then the ground. He hit hard, and the world contracted to a single blast of pain that ran the length of his body. His bag straps snapped, dangled loose, and skidded across the asphalt, spilling its contents. His iPhone cracked against the curb, spiderwebs blooming on the glass, keys scattered, shining briefly in the winter sun before sliding to a near stop. near a storm drain. The sounds of Harlem rushed back in. Someone shouting, brakes squealing, the chorus of, "Oh my God!" from the sidewalk. He blinked. For a strange moment, the brightness around him seemed to separate from the sky. A line of figures stood beyond the ring of onlookers. Old faces and young ones, familiar and not. Cloth patterns his grandmother had sewn, hats his grandfather used to wear, a boyhood cousin who had died of fever when they were both 10. They did not speak, but he felt their intention clearly, the way he felt the pull of hot oil when it's about to burn. "Come," their presence said, "we are here." Not a command, a calling. He thought of Cleolin, up on 5, her hands in soap suds. Later, brow furrowed over a flyer she pretended not to want. He thought about the stew in her pot, the smell of coconut in that small kitchen, the feel of her fingers against his mouth as she fed him. "I just told her I'm not going anywhere," he tried to say. What came out was a soft, wet breath. A man knelt at his side, face pale, hands hovering. "Stay with us," the stranger urged. "An ambulance is coming. Breathe." The edges of his vision did not move closer, nor did they recede. They waited, patient, the world around him blurred at the edges. He did not hear the siren arrive so much as he felt the sound buzzing around through the ground into his bones. Hands pressed at his neck. Questions floated above him, directed at one another, not at him. Then something inside let go. The pain dropped away. The cold air warmed. The sky opened in a way that had nothing to do with the weather. The figures turned, and he understood where Asamando lay. Not in the clouds, not under the earth, but in a place that held all of them at once. His people and their people folded into one long, living story. He followed.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Very well done. Well read, well written. And of course, again, this is not the ending of the story. Um, you know, Scarlet introduces us to Quaco, and we love him. And we love him for Cleolin. And we love Cleolin. And they are just beautiful human beings, and we want them to be together. And then she takes Quaco away. And then,
And
you
then
know,
Cleolin continues.
yeah,
This story was rooted in an experience. I've always been just so. I I feel for the delivery drivers in New York City. I I feel for them whenever I see them. There are a lot of African delivery drivers in New York City. And there are lots of things, of course, as with all my short stories around Quaco, because he wasn't actually a delivery driver. But the delivery driver that um, that whose story, like there was an actual delivery driver who passed very near where we lived from a bike and my husband was actually the one that was that corner scene. He witnessed that, and then he called me to tell me. And in that moment, that story rose. And this was before book one. I wrote about the delivery driver, and and all I could think about in the moment when my husband called me was this man's family.
Mm.
Um, I mean, as a person, we always talk about privilege, right? We talked about privilege the last time, I think, Amanda. But as privilege, I am waiting always for deliveries. They come to my door. I'm upset when they're late. I'm just. But in truth, these are real humans, and all I could think about was the person that remained. And so I wrote about Carlos, who is the doorman in the first one, and I wrote just a part of a scene in book one where this person comes in and Carlos assumes that it is a delivery person, and he goes up. He never comes back down. That was the almost foreshadowing in the first
Yeah.
book. I hadn't intended to write the second book, right, at the time when I wrote it, but as soon as I contemplated what story would follow, right, Another Day in Paradise or The Doors of Paradise, is was Kweku's story. I knew that it was going to be him, and so yeah, but I think about the people who give up their lives to earn this money here in this city. I'll think about them a lot.
And I think that's a beautiful place to end because, in a sense, we're coming full circle. We've talked about how the stories impact us and how they, how when we read your stories, there's a way in which those stories integrate with our own lives and who we are. But
Hmm.
then, from what you're saying, the real world out there, you integrate that into your stories. Um, and I guess no wonder the reviews you get are around your work being honest and feeling real. So very well done, Scarlett. And it
Thank
has
you,
been a
Amanda.
pleasure speaking with you about Beyond First Glance. It's been wonderful to have live guests on our show today. And at this point, if you've got any questions that you'd like to put to Scarlett, please do so. Please put it in the chat. Um, we'll be looking out for those
Yes,
questions.
yes, Miss Maine. When you are in New York City, absolutely. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, wine, tea, coffee,
All of them.
everything. We're going to connect. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nicole. I think Nicole had to step.
Okay.
Stay awesome, Jasmine. Oh, she has another workshop. It's a busy weekend.
Yeah, Jasmine.
Lord.
Jasmine had to go too. I think she had another workshop as well. Yeah. Yeah, so we're available. We'll be available for Q&A, I guess. We're not rushing the questions. We'll wait a little bit. Don't feel you've got to come up with a question right away. I'm wondering if I can do another reading while we're waiting for questions.
Why don't we do that? And people can put
Yeah.
their questions in.
I think this time, so we can do a kind of have your cake and eat it situation because we chose 1 out of 3. So now we'll go to 3. I think that's fair enough.
Is that fair? Is that what grandmothers hold?
Yes. Shall I read it this time? Shall I give
Yes,
you
you read it.
right. Okay. Here we go. Meanwhile, while I'm reading, hi Dana Marie. Here comes extract number 3. Okay. Before I could respond, Cecil darkened the doorway. I hadn't heard him coming, but I recognized the set of his shoulders, the way he held himself when trying to contain something explosive. Failed. Cecil's voice was dangerously quiet. That's the word you choosing? Jerome straightened. Daddy, No. Cecil stepped into the kitchen and I saw Jerome instinctively back up. You don't get to come in my house, eat at my table, and talk about failure like it's something in the past, like it's something you can apologize away over curry and rice. Cecil, I started, but he held up a hand. You failed. Present tense, boy. You failing right now. Every day that child wakes up asking why her father doesn't call more. Every birthday you miss. Every time she sees other children with their fathers, and I have to watch her face. His voice broke, anger crumbling into something more raw. Jeromy's face had gone ashen. Daddy, I'm trying. Cecil laughed, but it was harsh, bitter. You know what trying looks like? Trying is your mother plaiting Trisha's hair for school every Sunday night. Trying is me, in my old age, stepping up to guide a little girl through things no man ever taught me to explain. Trying is, that's enough. I stepped between them, my hand on Cecil's chest. And this is from Mary, the grandmother's perspective. I could feel his heart pounding, see the moisture in his eyes that wasn't quite tears. Both of you, that's enough. Need some air, he said roughly, and turned to leave. At the doorway, he paused, not looking back. Your daughter is in the living room, Jerome, your firstborn daughter. Maybe you should go talk to her instead of standing here discussing your failures. Suddenly, Cecil turned back and gestured to his son. You know what? Come, let's take this outside. My stomach clenched. I didn't follow. A woman knows when to step in and when to hold the line and let men sort out their own mess. Through the kitchen window, I watched them under the mango tree. Cecil's hand was on Jeromy's shoulder. Their heads bent close in conversation. Sap sweetened the air. A kiss kitty called from the fence. Jerome gestured, clearly emotional. Cecil shook his head, then pulled our son into an embrace. When they came back inside, Cecil caught my eye and gave me the slightest nod. We'll talk later, it said. It's going to be okay. Meanwhile, I took the opportunity to speak with Margaret. I found her in the gallery, watching the girls play. Margaret, I began gingerly, I want you to know how grateful I am for taking care of Jerome, for raising Heather so well, for sharing her with us today. Mrs. Enoch, I need you to understand something. Her voice was gentle but firm. This visit is important, and I want the girls to know each other. Jerome and I are really focused on our lives in New York right now. Trisha, she's happiest here with you. This is her home. I hear what you're really saying under the nice. Don't get ideas, Mrs. Enoch. Don't read more into it than a visit. I could have get vexed. Part of me wanted to. But as I looked at this young woman, protective, guarding her territory, while still allowing this connection, I recognized it. The way she stood just a little closer to Heather. The way her hand never quite left her back. That same fierce thing that made me take in Trisha without question. How could I fault her for that, when it was the same instinct that made me take in Trisha's mother years ago? I understand, I said. But Margaret, you must understand too. Trisha is a part of all of us. She carries Jerome in her smile. She carries my mother's stubbornness. She carries this family's blood. Distance don't change that. So that's it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What did that? How you? That was a lovely reading. First of all,
Thank you.
you really captured, especially Cecil, and how he is thinking in this time frame. But I wanted the scene where you didn't actually hear what they were talking about, but the scene under the mango tree. Oh my gosh, I loved that.
The
Like,
tension.
just that is what I wish for most fathers and sons. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, indeed.
Yeah. So I think if there are no questions, we might just wrap up.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been lovely.
Yeah, I think that first of all, thank you, Amanda. Thank you for always engaging with my creations, and also just your vibrant, beautiful nature as a human being. I love and I value our friendship.
Thank you,
So
Scarlet.
thank you. And I also want to say for the readers and potential readers out there, you can always find me at scarletibisjames.com. If you join the Scarlet Collective, you will get, I think, not too much but you'll get information about books, about beta reading opportunities, early stories. I'm always coming up with things. These voices in my head want to come out, and they do on the paper. Um, and I really am thankful for the community of people that have supported me in this space, and that I continue to engage with. And you being just an amazing person as well, Amanda. And I want to also put a plug out there that, as we talked about in the beginning, Amanda's book Reputation is coming out on August 30th. And listen, people, it is an amazing read as well. It had me going. I am typically a slow reader. I couldn't read that slow. I had to
Wow.
consume it so quickly.
Amazing.
It was an amazing story, also seeded in a previous short story collection as
No, the
well.
other way around. I wrote the novel
No
first.
way! Oh my! I would have never known. I would have. So I cannot wait. On August 30th, we're going to have a conversation about that book,
Yeah.
and so follow both of us on Substack in order to get an invitation to that. But yes, I am so excited for Reputation to come
Thank
out
you.
into the world. It's
Thank you.
going to
I'm
be
so
amazing.
excited as well.
Mhm.
So I've got a few notes in closing if you've enjoyed the session. By the way, the invitation to the Zoom launch for my book launch that I'm going to do with Scarlet is already out there. So if you check on my Trouble at Taboo Junction, there's an article, Here Comes Reputation. There's a link in there to register for the launch. Um, but don't worry, there's
You
no
find
rush. If you find it now, you find it now. Otherwise, we're going to be putting it out there. But a few other things for those of you who are writers and interested in doing independent publishing, which is to say, going through the steps of publishing your own work, which is what Scarlett and I are doing. We are also doing a talk with two other writers, Jasmine Payne and Dale Mahfood, on July the 14th, Sunday. It's going to be a little late in the day, but I'll put those details in the show notes for this podcast event. So this event that we've done together, it's going to go out there on the podcast, and initially it'll just be the video, and then during the week I'll add in some notes that are relevant to things that came up in our discussion, and I'll include the link for the event on July 12th, which will be of special interest to those of you who are intending to publish as well. And for those of you who enjoy Caribbean fiction or curious about the book Ever Since We Small by Celeste Mohammed, she's kindly agreed to come on this podcast on July the 24th. So that's something else to look out for. So those 3 dates are going to be in the show notes. Thank you very much. It's been brilliant. It's been lovely. I've enjoyed it. Enjoy your afternoon, morning, evening, night, wherever you are in the world.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye.